I grew up going to this village in Croatia where my grandparents lived and my aunts lived, and my mom and dad would kind of drop us off there for the summer. So as everyone else was going to like Florida or something, I was going to like this village in Croatia where like we like harvested like potatoes and wheat, and there was donkeys and like pigs and chickens and all this kind of stuff. But it made me like there was no running water, there was wells, there was no indoor plumbing. Like this is the 1980s and there's no indoor plumbing. Like this was like way out in the country in Croatia. Like it was really like the 1800s, but it was happening in 1980. Okay.
Hard times.
Yeah, but it made me realize something when I saw those like about 15 families living in a village, so maybe 200-300 people all told together. They were using credit because like if one family helped another family harvest a field of potatoes, it was just kind of implied that your family was going to help the other family harvest like a field of wheat the next week. So it was just this it was like an untold credit system. And it was just like you had to do that. Otherwise, your family would be like, you would never get the help. So like if you didn't return the favor, you would never get the help. And it's really like a credit system, but it just wasn't recorded. Because like if one family did 3 things for this family, that family felt obligated to do 3 things, and it was never discussed that way. It was just implied. That's how the village worked. And there was some barter, because if you were really good at making like a saddle for a donkey and another family wasn't, but they were really good at making like cheese, you would just straight up barter like, hey, but it really wasn't discussed. It was just like, oh, you take this, I'll get this. It wasn't like, I will give you 3 things of cheese for your saddle. It was more casual, but it was happening. Like I saw it with my own eyes. It was just this natural barter and natural credit system. But the credit system I noticed when I reflected back after reading Lynn's book, I'm like, that's interesting. In the village with a small amount of people, it worked. But if you printed out on a piece of paper that one family owed another family a harvesting of potatoes, and you printed that out on a piece of paper, it would look weird, but it does help you conceptualize what was happening. Like, oh, now, like your family helped my family harvest these potatoes. Here's this credit. I owe you 1 harvested field. And here's a piece of paper that says that. Imagine a third party came into that village and started counterfeiting those credit slips.
Yeah.
And the family said, oh, you don't owe me 1 harvested field. You owe me 3 because I have these 3 pieces of paper that say you do.
Yeah.
But you in your mind are like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, I helped you harvest that 1 field. You helped me harvest a field. But now because we went to a paper-based credit system, someone could counterfeit these slips of paper and put it into the village. And what happens? People start arguing. You don't trust each other anymore. The value of your credits go down because now all of a sudden people start inserting these new kind of things into this village where one family who had the little printing press to make these credits, all of a sudden, they have 100 of these credits. You only have 1. Now they can start spending these credits all over, like you owe me this, you owe me that. The value of all the credits in the village goes down. And that's exactly what's happening at a global scale. It's just that people don't see it because it's so big and it's happening at the banking level. People don't realize they're getting robbed every day in this system. At a small little village level, if you were to kind of just boil it down to that, you can kind of see it. And you could see how trust would break down between people. You can see how it would create some angst in society. Like, oh, like doesn't seem right. Like, how come they're telling me I have to harvest their field 10 times? Like, we're on like a 1-for-1 exchange here. How did they get those 9 other extra credit receipts? Like, where did those come from? I don't really trust. What's going on? So now you go from like this kind of happy, jolly, like village life with a lot of gossip between the families, just like regular kind of life. It happens. But you kind of like, you kill the whole vibe.
Yeah.
And on a global scale, that's exactly what's happening. But people don't see these extra little credit slips, the Canadian dollar, being printed and shoved into the economy. So you don't see it happening. Yeah. And a small village level, you would see it happening. And I know that's a crazy story, Rajat, to share with you, but I just saw it I lived it. Like I saw it. And I was like, this works kind of really well. You can use credit as money at a really local level. But beyond the local village level, once you go wider to like 2 or 3 villages away, it doesn't really work as much. And you need a hard, sound form of money that everybody can trust, because this credit system kind of breaks down. Or if somebody was to come into this village and print out like fake credits, it would also break the system.
Yeah.
So I know this is a completely weird story, but it's my way of trying to explain to people, like, you can work off credit. The system as we have it now could kind of sort of work. It's just that it's so cheated that when you have a central system creating fake credits and stuffing them into the economy, and it's devaluing everybody else's credits, which are the Canadian dollar credit receipt, it really just, it messes with everything. But because you don't see it happening like you would on a small village scale, it seems like this nebulous thing that you can't make sense of it. You don't know what's happening. You just have to work harder for less and less. I'll stop with my silly story. I wanted
No,
to share that with you. I wanted to share
that
that with
wasn't
you.
silly at all, man. Like, Tom, that I think that actually it shows you the fact that within families, like we can swap,
Yeah,
let's say, favors,
between
right? Like
friends, between a
I
friend
go to
group,
my
between a friend group.
right. Like I go to my in-laws' house every week, every couple weeks. They make food for me. It's not like they're writing it down, like, oh, this guy owes me,
Exactly.
right? Like it's not like that. You go to any family's house, they're not writing down, oh, this person drank this many bottles of beer or this
Yeah.
person had this much food. They're not going to count that. It's implied that at some point maybe you'll invite them to your house. It's
Yeah.
implied that at some point you'll help them with something. Like, let's say if they need to come back from the airport, I'm going to go pick them up and I'm not going to charge them $150. I'm not going to charge them $75. I'm just going to do it because that's how people work. And I feel like the system that we have today, it's designed to get us reliant on governments. It's designed to get
Mhm.
us not trusting each other so that everything that we do goes through, let's say, insurance or goes through let's our future. Instead of relying on our family to survive, we're going to get CPP,
Mhm.
right? And we're going to get in the US Social Security. But that's I think you the point that you made is really great because in smaller groups, we can rely on, let's say, favors. We can rely on
Mhm.
trusting each other. We can rely on trust, or we can rely on love. Let's say we can rely on acts of service. But as the group gets bigger and bigger, we need
Yeah.
something that you actually
You can
can
trust a sound
you
money. Yeah.
can't not even trust, that you don't have to trust. Something that
Sorry.
you don't
Yeah.
have to
That,
trust
yeah. That
anyone
we can
for.
verify, that we can verify it is what it is. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Like if you have a
Yeah.
bar of gold, you know a bar of gold is a bar
Mhm.
of gold. Of course, you have to do the test. Once it's confirmed, you know it's there. But the thing is that even with, let's say, the Federal Reserve, Fort Knox's holdings of gold, we don't even know they're there. People are assuming that they're there. What happens if they're not there?
Mhm.
What happens to the price of gold?
Mhm.
See, all of this is uncertainty, and people don't even think about it. With your example there, if you could pay somebody with Bitcoin on a crazy level, like let's say you pay somebody in Tokyo, right? You're not even
Mhm.
close to each
Mhm.
other. You can pay
Mhm.
them with Bitcoin, and they know they got the payment. They know they got paid for whatever service or product they
Without
are.
going through any of the people taxing that along the way,
Exactly, right? And
all the
they know
middlemen
it's
are
there.
removed.
Right. They know it's there. They know they got it. They don't have to rely on somebody to confirm that it's there for them. They don't have to have a
Mhm.
bank in the middle. They don't have to have a government in the middle. Everything is eliminated. And I think your story really illustrated that well because let's say me and you, we have an agreement to do something. We'll
Mhm.
remember it. If let's say if you say no, I never owed you that, I'm never going to work
Mhm.
with you again. But
Mhm.
we don't have
Yeah.
that option with governments. If governments are going to
Mhm.
print more money, add them to the economy, they're going to steal our wealth.
Mhm.
They can say, I didn't do that. They can blame other,
It's insidious because you don't
yeah,
see it.
right.
Yeah.
They can blame the corporate greed. They can blame poor people. They can blame
Mhm.
rich people. They can blame whoever they want to. They can blame people from different groups. They can blame, let's say, people from they can say corporate greed. They can say the billionaires need to be taxed more,
Mhm. Mhm.
or the poor people aren't making their contributions, or this
Yeah, it's
group of
everyone
people.
else's fault.
Right?
Just
It's
everyone
everybody else's
else's.
fault
Yeah.
but theirs. It never goes to that that root cause that the money is the problem. And that's something that a lot of people just don't get. They don't even think about it. And your story, I think it showed that perfectly because people are so used to just having agreements with their friends and family. They're so used to trusting the people around them because the familiar faces that they know where that person came from. Because it's not like we were always globalized like we are today. Governments allowed that to happen with, let's
Mhm.
say, fiat
Mhm.
currencies. I'm not even saying that fiat currencies are bad. We would never have gotten where we are without fiat. But I think going forward, we have this solution that's 10, 20, 100, 500 times better, 1,000,
Totally.
a million times
Yeah.
better. So why wouldn't
Let's
we
start
go to it?
using it. Yeah. Agreed.
Right? Start using it. The only way for it to grow is for people to start using it.
Hmm. Yeah, and some of the stuff now coming out. I think when Ben was at our last event, he demoed Aqua Wallet, and with Aqua Wallet, people were kind of just blown away. People hadn't seen that, and and the reason I'm bringing up that because that's one wallet that has Bitcoin on chain, but it has Lightning, has Liquid, it has USDT in there as
Yeah,
well. I know I'm not here to push USDT. It was interesting for
of
people
course.
to see the transition. Like, oh, I could hold US dollars and swap them over to Bitcoin. I can use the Lightning Network all in one wallet. Have you used the Aqua Wallet a little bit?
I have, but I haven't tried the tether. I haven't tried
Yeah.
tether on there.
I haven't either. My brother, I think my brother has. I just see it there. I have no need for it. Bitcoin. That's all I need.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's a great wallet. I think seeing that just shows people like, okay, it's possible for me to transact without having a person in the middle. I actually orange pilled a friend maybe a couple weeks ago. I sent him a transaction on Wallet of Satoshi and I told him, hey, I'm going to send you some Bitcoin. There's no bank in the middle, nobody in the middle. You can download the app from anywhere. Go to the Play Store and download it. Go to your App Store and download it. Download it, and I'll send you some Bitcoin. I sent it to him. I sent him $10 worth of Bitcoin, and he got it. He looked at how much it's worth in different currencies because he goes to Colombia a
yeah,
lot. He goes
cool.
to Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and all those areas. He goes to all these areas and he wants to see what the currency is worth. So he was able to see what is it worth on Wallet of Satoshi in terms of these different currencies. It was so interesting. It orange pilled him
So
within
cool.
minutes.
Yeah,
Crazy.
cool. Yeah, people out of the country, they can see it so much faster. When I was in Italy last summer, one of the currency exchange places had a Bitcoin. I don't know if I already told you this. And I'm like, my son and I ran up and said, wait a second, if I send you Bitcoin right here, you're going to give me euros? And the lady was like, yeah, I have a Bitcoin
Wow.
address. You send me the Bitcoin. And I'm like, that's the exchange rate, which was like a rip-off rate, but those places always are in those tourist towns
Yeah.
in the middle of summer. But she's like, yeah, you send it here. I'll give you the euros. And I just thought, holy crap, like that just changes so much.
Changes everything.
Because even if we're at the state where some merchants locally in Florence don't take Bitcoin yet, I can, if someone's traveling and you can send them some Bitcoin, they can quickly exchange it to euros there. That alone is just like game changing. Can you imagine what
Yeah.
you would have to do before to send your friend in the middle of Florence in summer, like some cash? It'd
Yeah.
be really, really difficult. When my father was working in Canada and he would send money, did I already tell you this, back to my aunt and all the people in the middle? He would save up like $500, which like back then was just this obscenely huge amount of money for him to save up. And he would send it, he'd wire it through like Western Union over. So he'd pay a fee here. And then when it would land in Croatia, the bank would pay a fee to like deal with it. My aunt it's one of those stories where the walk from the village to that place, I've done the walk myself too. It's probably like just under 2 hours. So she would walk like, down these little paths and stuff to this village, out into this little town. She'd get to this bank. She'd get that money was to help my aunt and my grandparents like survive a little bit because the local currency at that time was the Yugoslavian dinar, and it was just like losing. It was not a good currency. So my dad would send that back home. So he'd pay a fee here. The bank would take a fee. Get this, $50. So
Wow.
the $500, $50, and then the tellers at the bank, these two guys would steal $50 from my aunt.
So she get
So she
400.
would so my dad's working here, paying taxes here, manages to save up, pays the taxes, then pays the fee. Then over there, there's $50 from the bank that's taking $50, like 50 out of 500, 50. And then $50 stolen from my aunt. Because what's my aunt going to do to, these two people? She sees them taking the money and they're going out and eating all that kind of stuff. So she gets $400 and then has to walk home. And it worked and everything's fine and all that kind of stuff. But imagine Bitcoin existed. Isn't that
Yeah.
wild? Like that's a true story that happened to my father and my aunt.
And if you
Isn't that just wheel? That's like crazy.
that's crazy, but I mean, if you think about it on top of that, like that's what them scamming us right in front of our faces. What's happening behind
Yeah.
closed doors,
Okay. Fair. Yeah.
right? So I
Totally.
mean,
Yeah.
your story is obviously relevant. It's like, okay, you saved up $500 and they took 20% out of doing nothing. Like they did
Nothing.
literally nothing. The 20% is up front though, right? What are they doing behind closed
Yeah.
doors? How
Yeah.
much money are they really printing? How much money is
Mhm.
really being added to the economy? We're told it's like 7. If you look at the M2 money supply, the M2 money supply looks crazy. But then what's the real number? What are the
Mhm.
real numbers like? Those aren't the real numbers. You can't even audit the Federal Reserve. You can't figure out all
Well,
of
there
those
and,
numbers.
and it's just simple enough for us to understand they're not the real numbers because
Yeah.
productivity should bring things down in price. Like
Yeah.
we're getting more efficient at doing everything we do. So like really prices should be coming down in everything, but they keep going up in everything. So if
Yeah.
we're able to measure the up in M2 money supply growth at like 8% compounded annually over time, well, that 8% has to be more than 8 because prices should be down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%.
Yeah.
So let's say they should be down 5% because we're getting more efficient, but they're up. We're saying 8% M2 money supply. Well, we're really losing then 13%. We're
Yeah.
at a minimum they're losing 13% because prices should be down 5%, but they're up 8.
Yeah.
So like the spread on that's like 13. And like how's that
Crazy.
measured? It's
And then
crazy.
if we go back to your story, the Croatia one, the only way for people to get screwed over there is to trust somebody who they don't know. And we're
Yeah.
basically all trusting people we don't know. How many
Mhm.
people you don't know who the Federal Reserve is? You don't know who Jay Powell is. I have no idea what he does in his free time. I don't know what kind of crazy things he does, and I just basically trust him. The entire world trusts him to set the price for everybody's money, right?
It's just
It's
crazy. And then
crazy.
when you wire your money around, like if you ever send a wire, like I had a teller once ask me what a wire was for. I forget what I answered. It was like just an honest, good reason. And she's like, you know what? I think it'll be better if I say this
Hmm.
because we knew each other. So she typed something into the wire details or whatever. And I was like, why does it matter?
Yeah,
Like I'm not doing anything illegal. And like, why does it feel like you're doing me a favor by typing something in? Cause like the thing I said was going to get it. I think we were buying furniture. And
well,
she was like, buying furniture? Didn't sound right. And I was like, okay, I don't know. That's what it's for. So she typed in something else, I think like investment or I don't know what she put in, but I'm like, why are we like, what does this even matter? Who cares? Why do I have to tell you what it's for anyway? Why
yeah,
do I have to tell you anything?
it's my money.
You know, and then it's the end. Yeah, exactly. And the answer is for your own safety and, all this money laundering stuff. I'm like, this is just crazy.
Like we can't launder money using their systems. It's not going to happen. But they're laundering money using their systems. It's already happening. You know it's happening. There's no way that the U.S. government is in $36 trillion worth of debt, and the world is getting worse.
Yeah.
Like there's
Well,
no
I
way.
think we see it all now with whatever's going on with USAID and some of that kind of
Yeah,
stuff coming on. TD Bank, I think in Canada, didn't they just get fined like a few $1 billion for laundering? I
yeah.
thought
I think it was
recently.
like a year ago or
So it's
something. Yeah.
just all over the place. But
Yeah, and again, that all of that happens because of these promises. Because at the family level, the village level, we make these promises. We accept that this is our money. We accept these, like the debt. The Have you read the book 5,000 Years or whatever, the history book?
no, I don't think so. No.
So there's a book that goes into this, and we have in the current system now we're relying on promises for bigger and bigger entities, for bigger and bigger promises, and
Mhm.
it's breaking us. It's breaking the world
Yeah.
apart.
Mhm.